Good evening and welcome to Champions Network TV, where bold ideas meet meaningful dialogue. Tonight's theme is teaching financial freedom, empowering the next generation with money skills and lasting legacy. It is not only timely, but fundamental to shaping future and that the future is stable, dignified, and self-determined. Across Zimbabwe, Sierra Leone, Uganda, and the United Kingdom, young people are stepping into economic difficulty with challenges, but rich with opportunity. Financial literacy has never been more critical, from inheritance planning to entrepreneurial risks, from household budgeting to retirement security. Leading us tonight's panel is none other than Mr. Makabai, a seasoned civil servant, respected business person in Uganda with deep experience in public finance, economic inclusion, intergenerational wealth. He brings a sharp eye for systems and the heart for empowering. He will be joined with a dynamic lineup. On the forefront is Mr. Nathaniel, a politician, a farmer from Sierra Leone, now in the United Kingdom, spotlighting policy and community-based models of savings and legacy. At some point, we shall be joined with Shumba, a geopolitical analyst, contextualizing wealth building within broader policy framework and institutional stability. This conversation is not about short-term success, it's about teaching money mastery with meaning. What we are passing on, how do we bridge culture, generational, and systematic gaps in financial education? There is no better voice to guide us through this than Mr. Makabai. Say, the floor is yours.
Good evening, our viewers. I'm Henry Makabai, a civil servant in Uganda. But besides being a civil servant now, I have worked in the microfinance sector. I worked with Focus Uganda. It was a women's microfinance institution. It was targeting women because there was a realization that when women are involved in economic activities, the benefits from those economic activities normally directly impact or benefit the family. They are mindful about their children. And so when they save something or when they make something, when they're involved in business, it is about the welfare of the family. And the realization was also that, especially in the rural setting, the men, when they make some money, some of them focus on their personal satisfaction. They will opt to go and drink. They may also opt to get a second or third or fourth wife. And that shrinks the resource envelope that would have improved the welfare of the family. Now, I currently head a savings and credit program at my place of work. I'm the chairperson of the Electoral Commission of Uganda Cooperative Savings and Credit Society. And this is a cooperative that started in 2004 with the savings, monthly savings of about, that's 5 million Uganda shillings, about $2,000 per month. and it has grown over time with some challenges, but it's a cooperative that has reached a point. This is a cooperative that is where there is shareholding of 600 members, about 600 members, and they have been able to save. They have reserves to the tune of about $400,000, the equivalent of $400,000 now. And that really means that if there is a deliberate effort in financial management, financial certainty and stability can be guaranteed for the future. Now, there are certain tenets that really surround management of money that can lead to financial freedom. The first one is hard work, definitely. Working must be the starting point. You should be able to work. It could be cultivating a garden. It could be offering your labor for a wage or a salary. And then, if you are working, that means you need to consider one thing. Of the resources that are got, how much are you consuming? Do you have it in mind that there is tomorrow when there could be a hard time? Are you saving for that likelihood of difficulties or shortages? So saving is a factor. And then there is also the issue of investment, that if you have generated some resources, are you able to utilize those resources to generate other resources and ultimately gain passive income that is coming from the money that you have already earned, and now the money is trying to produce some money? And then the financing bit of it, that whenever you want to go into something bigger, you may be resource constrained. Are there opportunities for financing? Because financial management is mainly about investment and financing decisions. Am I getting money to invest to get a return? Then that's where some bigger things come in financial management, as a risk return paradigm, where there is a notion that whatever business that you go in that has high risks normally has high returns. But then you are not a person who, when getting started in financial management, you will not take such high risks. But I also want to bring to the attention of the listeners and observe those watching us that there is a tendency, especially among us, the elite. We are so risk averse because we have gone to school, we've studied economics, we've done all this and the other. In whatever we are doing, we are trying to calculate, is the risk high? If the risk is high, we fear taking risks. We settle for less. And that's where you get to realize that many people that have prospered in business are not those that have gone very far. Actually, I remember when we were doing business administration at graduate level, we set out, we were saying, well, why is it that, you have this whole group of masters in business administration students. We've studied all these things. Can we try our best to put our heads together and see whether we can run a business? And I can assure you, the steps that we have made as that group are laughable. They are nothing to talk about. Our commitment, why? Because each one of us is with their calculator trying to work out some financial model to establish whether what you are settled going in for will have any returns. And yet, those that have had basic literacy, who can just add up, can count their money accurately, take those risks, and then get some return. So what am I saying? That for the future of the, for the future generation to be guaranteed financial freedom, we need to teach them certain things. That one, they must be ready to work, not to depend on the sweat of their parents. The West is very helpful to these people in that when one clocks the age of 18, you cease to be a minor. You are told, well, now you are staying in this home. Probably you may have to foot part of the bills, you will pay part of the rent, you will have to contribute to the utilities, you will have to do that. But we have this tendency of those who think are affluent in this other part of the world to try to prepare and do everything for our children. So we teach them to be dependent and come every month, Daddy, I'm going for this trip, I want this money. They do not want to think about how hard it is to make that money. For them, there is that sense of entitlement that for as long as my dad, my mom are rich, that is my wealth. And that's why you get to situations at times where when the parents get tough, wanting these people to try to understand, to work and get some independence, they can even turn around some of them even end up killing their parents in order to inherit, to take over the wealth, not knowing that when they do that, they will be locked up anyone, they will not access that wealth. But it's a mindset thing. The issue, I think the bottom line is the starting point is work. Being able to work, either on the farm, on the land, and then being able to realize that there is need for saving, then of what you save should not just be kept there. It should also be, there should be some aspect of investment so that what you have saved can produce more, so that you diversify your sources of revenue, because that's what can guarantee you as a person involved. And the moment you involve your offsprings in those efforts for them to learn from childhood that there is need to work, there is need to save, there is need to invest, then you will be empowering the next generation. And I think there will be some contribution towards a safer generation in terms of the resources available to them for survival and for guaranteeing their future. So that's what I would try. Those would be my opening remarks regarding this issue of guaranteeing or teaching financial freedom. So of course, there are certain things that there are academic approaches to it, but I think those academic approaches may be so limiting to some of us that probably looking at the practical steps that those that are not so critical in terms of academics, those who have had less formal education, that take more risks, have prospered more. We may have to start exploring, especially those people, and using some of those people's experiences to teach the younger people that there is a possibility of guaranteeing financial safety, I would call it, of financial freedom in the future if you undertook some of these approaches. So welcome to the talk show.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Makabai, with such an easy elaboration of the practical things that we can actually teach our young people. And I think he hammered on the first three pillars that the young people should know. And one of them, they have to work, and they have to be able to, when they work, to save and invest, which is key. The floor is open for contributions. That was the voice from Uganda. What is Sierra Leone saying? And what is Zimbabwe or the United Kingdom also bringing to the table?
Um, Good evening, listener or somebody watching us. The first time I will introduce myself, Nathaniel Sandy, based in UK. Of course, I'm a social worker in UK, and I am a farmer and a politician in Sierra Leone. As the host has actually asked me to talk about Sierra Leone, I mean, from the leader has already given his brilliant professional view on this. It makes me remember what I have been doing and not knowing that I was doing some sort of microfinancing, as a politician, I gathered a lot of women up to 290. And sometimes I would send them just a little bit of £100 or here and there to support them. And they told me they are doing microfinancing. And I will also look at them with eyebrows. I said, what's going on? How can you? This is so small. But indeed, when they do the exchange rate, they start giving themselves in groups. The first set of people may have few loans here and there for 2-3 months, and they bring it back. And this continued for a year, and some people brought profit, even though there were loss risk, wherein people never return with their monies back. But it transformed and it helped some of the women, the majority of women and young ladies, but the majority of women were more of widows. And I also, as a widower, joining them was quite interesting to them. That my aim was not really to what I was doing, that I was making their lives in a different way to be better. But when I had the explanation and we went into details, because they did not take me as a different person, they asked me to manage them. Unfortunately, longhand because I'm far away. My deputy was, and she is still there as the manager of that 290 women, supporting them. We are doing something at the end of the year. I was lucky again to be around. I was also contributing as part of them, and they gave me a good sum of money. I said, what's this for? They said, oh, we have been turning around this money to other colleagues, and you never took part to invest, but we have been investing your own money into our own pocket and bringing some kind of gain or profit. But then my memory served me right. When I was just finishing O levels, we had a young teacher and his wife. I remember trying to do some sandwich in the city, and I begged her to borrow me 5 leones, which they were very close to the pound at that time. But what I did was I went and buy a few items that will make me have a sandwich. And I will still have a change of 50p remaining in my pocket. But I have things that I bought that will let me, when I sell my stuff, I will still have a little bit of leftovers. I did that. And within 3 weeks, I was able to buy a platform, a very nice shoes, very nice shirt with good change. And I showed my elder sister, look what I have done. I said, oh, you are going to be a good business person. I said, I don't know about that. So when I calculated that, and now thinking about the ladies after what they have done, I went back to them. I said, look, if you really want to excel in this microfinancing, you will have to know what you want to do. First of all, the business you want to do, the cost of it, your living cost, and if you have to travel to the place and back, how much it costs before you request for money, so that you will not use your profit to, it will destroy your business. Because the bulk money that will give you profit, you keep the profit aside and you continue using the same money, investing on it. Maybe 1, 2, 3 months, you would have got almost the same amount of money they gave you. If you borrowed it, you will return that money and then you start again to regain your profit. You will have financial strength to do further. I mean, quite a good number of them followed my advice, and each time I go there, they will either buy fall for me or chicken, anything to say, hey, manager, you have managers. I said, what is this? They said, oh, it's just being, you are being good. So what the leader was telling us, everything came back onto me. I didn't really realize this was it. But very recently, some very rich guy who is a former honorable in parliament as well as a minister in a very high position gave those women, it could be about 25,000 euros. No, 500,000. 500,000, I'm not able to calculate it now to know exactly what would have been in the pound. And this same method, my deputy, who is based in Sierra Leone, also a very high political woman, they are applying it. And even though there might be some risks of some people not capable of really returning what they take, but 99.9 from my last, that was in October when I actually had a meeting with them to know what is going on, I see very great profit. And the rich man is currently somebody who wants to be a president of Sierra Leone. For whatever reason, I'm not going to show his name, but I mean, a lot of people will know he's trying to do that all over the country. So he wants to visit that area. I am based my own hometown, and I was called to be chair his visitation of giving this money to these women. So it's a very good topic, and I think there is a lot of risk in it for having some people not having the capacity of business oriented, and there is a high level of gain for those who have the capacity to do so. But everything is risk. So I risked that lady's 5 leons, which within 3 weeks, I was able to make 3,000 leons. And if that is today's money, we are talking about, I took 5 leons, that would be about one or 2 pounds, something like that, in Sierra Leone, 1 pound also. And that would, the 3,000 leons I had could have costed me, if that money I have it now or it was in the bank, maybe 30 to 40,000. We're talking about near 4,000 to 6,000 pounds. So I am going to read on this. This is another eye-opening to know what a brilliant opening to know how really I can be able, maybe talk to this gentleman again, how I can be able to persuade those ladies involved into this kind of work so that it can promote and it can make them have capital at some point in their lives. But I will have to conclude to say, if money, it cannot be generalized, because it can be on people who are doing petty trading and some people who have no idea about trading and some people who have been provided, like when he said parents just give. Then those are the risks we have to look at. But for those who came from farming background, you saw your dad going to the farm, mom, and doing all sort of farming work. They also have contributed to keep the farming going and capital. So I will only say I will have an open eye to keep looking how best I can learn into this, because I am not an expert in that. I am also naive over this. But what I have given you is purely on what I saw, experienced, and I hope to know more from how they are doing it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nathaniel. You brought a lot in the area around a small investment. If it is managed well, it can grow spontaneously. And I think your we hear from Shumba. For those watching us on YouTube or Facebook, you can put your contributions in the chat box or your questions. And also remember to like and subscribe to Champions Network TV so that you don't miss when we come live. You don't wait for a link to watch us. You can actually get a notification that we are live. With that, I'll give Tumba an opportunity to make his contribution to this interesting topic.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I think this is an interesting topic, and I think we're doing it much disservice in Africa, really, because I think Mr. Makabai said it, and Nathaniel to say, I think the education, there's lack of education in risk taking, especially among our people. I think it's all because of the education we pass to our own kids. We were taught to be so risk averse. The education we received, I think if you go the breadth of Africa, except if I've noticed a few countries like Sudan, I've noticed Sudan, I've noticed Somalia, most of North Africa, they are very entrepreneurial. I'm not saying the rest of Africa is not entrepreneurial, but most of the other parts of Africa, we were colonized to the extent that we always want to live, to get our living out of working. We are sent to school. We sort of don't understand the colonialism, the education system that they bequeathed upon us was just to give us basic skills that would enable you to work, whether it's in factories, in the houses, or in the as laborers. It was not to empower you to an extent that today you can be a stockbroker, tomorrow you can be a market trader, tomorrow you can have a hedge fund. Can we say, like in Sierra Leone, have you heard of a hedge fund? Have you got hedge funds in Uganda? So we don't talk of that, but that's where the money is. And when I liked Nathaniel when he talked about agriculture, farmers. The reason why most of these products are the prices of most commodities that even we grow, majority of which we grow, like cocoa, like I would say cocoa is the big one, coffee. The price is not us who set them, even though we are the majority producers. Why is that? Because we don't create markets. If you go into London, there's what they call futures market for agricultural products. You've got those futures market across the Western world. So they set and determine the prices on which the commodities we get. That's why they say coffee. If you wake up to go today, they will say coffee is so much a kilo on the international market. We're setting that international market is the UK, mainly UK and New York, which is the US. So we need to understand all the intricacies. This is where now education comes in to say we start learning in our education system. Kids should start learning that if you are doing agriculture, you also need to learn about that aspect of trading the agricultural market, of how the prices on the world stage are set, so that you don't just do agriculture without knowing the overall picture. Right now, if I tell you there are 5 big companies in the world that control the commodities, and most of them are Western companies. If you look at the likes of what is it called? Trafigura. There's Trafigura. There's Glencore. There's is it Vital, the other one? There's about 5 of them. Look at the people that they employ. They employ former MI5, MI6 guys. They employ former FBI guys. They employ former CIA guys. These are the people who know the world. So they bring them to these companies. And when they send them, whether to Brazil, to Africa, to Uganda, where the coffee is coming from, to Rwanda, where the coffee is coming from, these guys already are able to relate the data or relay the data of saying, oh, there's going to be drought in Uganda. So they will hold that coffee so that they can increase the price once they've noted what's going to happen. So this is one thing that we need to be aware of. Even if you are a farmer, you need to be aware of this education. These young farmers we are bringing up, they need to be aware of how these prices are being set on the world stage. And then the second thing that I'm going to talk about is risk-taking. If you look at the history of colonialization, it was about risk-taking. Most of the colonization, especially if you look at South Africa, you look at, I could say parts of Australia, because when Australia started, you find they were sending prisoners there. But eventually you had a gold rush in Australia, and you had masses of Europeans. It was not only the English, it was almost all the Europeans rushing to Australia for gold. Same happened in Canada. And then in South Africa, there was the diamond rush first, and then there was the gold rush. And they went to these countries and never came back to where they were coming from. That's why you find most of these, if you go to Canada, you find there are French people there. I think you know the Quebec, which is mainly a French. So this was happening within European nations. And in Africa, what the sad thing is, we have maintained these colonial borders. We have not allowed our youth to travel across Africa and take these risks that I'm talking about. Youth in Uganda might hear that there's a gold rush in Zimbabwe. They should be able to travel there and try their hands at gold mining there, because that's where the Cecil John Rhodes of Africans are gonna come from. And you also need Zimbabweans. For me, I'm particularly so fond of Uganda, Mr. Makabai. I've not been there, but the land is of me. Even Churchill said it. My fascination with Uganda is if you go and look at the the speech of Churchill when he said Uganda is the pearl of Africa. So there should be no child in Africa who is doing agriculture who should not know anything to do with Uganda, because your seasons in Uganda are just amazing. So these are the things that we're talking about, that our kids should know our continent like deep, not this Western education that me, I started knowing Uganda in my 40s to say, wow, I didn't know such a country existed with such potential, but I did agriculture, but I didn't have this kind of knowledge. So those are the things that we are talking about, and then we add risk to our kids to say, go travel Africa, to go and spend your time in Tanzania, go and spend time in Dar es Salaam. Congo is mining. So all the kids who aspire to be miners, they should know what's happening in Congo. They should know what's happening in Liberia with gold, with the diamonds. They should know what's happening in Botswana. So this is the education that is missing. So as a result, we rely more on academics to say, I'll go to school, I'll go to university. But there are so many opportunities in exploiting our resources within Africa, but those resources now, they've come to be exploited by the others. So I think this is an interesting topic that will help in shaping up the future of Africa if we really start taking risks and teaching our kids what the future must look like. I thank you.
Thank you very much. And, you took it on a global scale. You traveled left, right, and center across the globe, and also Africa. How we have to take advantage of what the resources are in each and every nation. And I think there was a Chill who was cheering you up, say yes, preach on, preach on. So for those who are watching, we also we appreciate your comments and your contributions. Umbama Kombe has just joined us. We are talking about teaching financial freedom, empowering the next generation with money skills and lasting legacy. And we had the opening remarks from Mr. Makabai, I think, who came up with 3 things that we have to teach our kids: hard work, savings, and investment. And then we talked about the project with the women there, and we had Mr. Nathan with finance, working with young, working with widows in Sierra Leone, and we've had an international perspective from educational system from Shumba. So I give the mic to you, sir. Umbama Kombe.
Oh, hi guys. Sorry, I was a bit late. Right, you're talking about money and money skills, next generation. I would start from a standpoint of what is money? Do we understand money? Do we understand money from the standpoint of, or the standpoint other than a medium of exchange? So what is the use of money? For us to understand money, we need to understand the politics behind money. So financial freedom is about the political engineering associated with gaining the upper hand in money. Money issues begin with what we call brainstorming. Brainstorming is about exchange of knowledge pertaining to virtually everything. Nothing goes to waste. I remember one of my professors at university, Colin Summers, used to say, nothing goes to waste unless you let it go to waste. So brainstorming is a core aspect of knowledge. From knowledge, we escalate the knowledge gained to wisdom. Wisdom brings about the challenge of choices, because a lot of people tend to feel and think that choice is a unique aspect of thinking. To disappoint a few, there is no such thing as a correct choice. Choice is an institution that changes all the time. Your choice today could be effective, but tomorrow could be ineffective. So choice evolves all the time. When you talk of money or generational wealth, we should also understand the concept of positioning. Are you positioned correctly where it's all happening? Or you are just a dormant spectator? At what point do you gain information? We are sitting in a symposium where people are talking about wealth creation. What are you gaining? What are your core tasks as far as gaining knowledge to disseminate to other significant people? So a lot of people tend to lose it when it comes to that. So teaching financial freedom, to me, doesn't exist. Brainstorming financial freedom, yes. It's something we can facilitate, because every stupid person has got a story to tell. Money is embroiled in a lot of financial perspectives. There's liquid money, wealth creation, and so on. Because if you go deeper, you're going to start thinking, is a piece of paper valuable? Are the coins in my pocket of value at all? So money, if you want to call it, is about correctional mindset. We should start from the standpoint of mindset. And mindset valuation begins with I. You're the standpoint of whatever you're going to develop. I am going to do this. I am going to be rich. I am going to do this. You don't say we are going to be rich. We is the second phase of the project. After I has been exhausted, after we have facilitated every or some bits and pieces pertaining to personal branding, etc. That's what I think about this.
Wow, a lot of thoughts coming in there. Politics behind money, political engineering, gain upper hand. In the final, there is nothing like teaching financial freedom, but there is brainstorming. So let's continue to brainstorm. What other contributor for those watching us online? We would appreciate your comments and your contribution. So here we are. Let's brainstorm, as Mr. Makombe said. Let's evaluate, is the teaching really relevant, or we just need to teach people? We need to encourage brainstorming, not teaching brainstorming. And,
Thank you very much. When it comes to financial freedom, it's also very important to realize that when you are talking about issues of money, we need to realize that money is very fluid. That when you get it, it is easier to spend than to earn. And the moment you realize that it is easier to spend than to earn, then you need to put that some kind of filter that limits the expenditure, lest you spend it all and you have nothing to spend tomorrow. That still rotates around the notion of saving. So what am I trying to say? That money needs to be used wisely, with the realization that I must have something today, and also be able to have something to do tomorrow. And there is a tendency of people who make some money trying to live beyond their means, living beyond what you've earned. At the end of the day, it will erode what you have made, and you end up living on credit. Now, forms of credit vary. It also presupposes that you are credit worthy anyway, because you may exhaust what you have, and nobody is willing to lend you to live tomorrow, or to even invest for tomorrow. So that's where the investment comes in, because the purpose of investment is to grow your money. I want to give an example or some advice that I gave to a women group that I visited, because as I told you earlier, I worked for a microfinance institution in the year 1999. This was called Focus Uganda. It was a microcredit institution that was lending money to women. And it started by, they called it the Credit with Education program. They would try to provide some education sessions for the ladies before they took their first loan. And among the things that they were being taught was to do some savings, and those regular savings, and then to keep records of their businesses. The purpose was for them to realize that when you start with a certain amount of money, you need to keep monitoring to establish whether what you started with is still there to start with and is growing. The moment you realize that it was not growing, then it meant that you are either stagnant or you are making losses, eating into what you started with. But one beautiful thing that that program was teaching people was that, one, it was discipline. They were in routine whereby they had to meet every Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday, and then they would have to bring a certain amount of savings, and then when they took a loan, they would have to bring part of that loan and savings concurrently. Now, these ladies used to borrow the equivalent of $50 to start with. The first loan they would take would be $50. And then they would have to pay back every week. It was a very rigorous thing. But one thing I learned from that microfinance institution was that the poor people borrow from very expensive sources. Sources that the billionaires in our economy in Uganda cannot afford to even go to. I mean, the rates at which they were borrowing, because it was at 3% per month, which translates to 36% per annum. That is the nominal interest rate. Now, if you go into computing the effective interest, where there are other costs, insurance, administration costs, it goes to a higher percentage than 36%. But these poor women would borrow and diligently pay their loans and grow their savings. So when I visited this women's group, I told them, you know what? The truth of the matter that you are not ordinarily taught. Of course, I was violating my employer's policy, but I was trying to empower these women. You know, at times, if you have a liberating mind, I mean, you go out of your way and try to tell the people the reality of the situation in which they were. I told them, one, this microfinance institution has taught you to save. It has given you a certain routine. And therefore, one, stick to that routine of regular savings. Stick to that routine of regular paying. But if your savings reach the amount that you first borrowed, terminate the savings. I mean, terminate the borrowing. Don't graduate your loan to $100. Start with the $50 that you have accumulated. Stick to the group. For you, just continue saving, but you do not borrow. And start growing your own money. And to start with, you will not be paying any interest, but pay it back, pay to the savings group like you are paying with interest. But that interest is indeed, you have grown your savings. And whether you like it or not, you will perform far better than the one who took a bigger loan. Because you now have your interest-free money that you have grown yourself. I didn't stay in that microfinance institution for long, but I don't know whether those ladies ever took that advice. But I really saw that, one, they would have broken themselves from the bondage of borrowing and paying interest to the microfinance institution, but they would be within its structures to benefit from the discipline of regular payments. And ultimately, that financial freedom that we are talking about would have been realized. And this is some good advice that I would be giving to my brother from Sierra Leone, who is working with some women groups, that do not maintain them in that armpit of borrowing. Trigger them to get started into business with the hope that they will reach a certain point. The moment they reach the thread where they started, ask them to restart the cycle. But this new cycle is now a very empowering cycle, because one, there is no interest attached to it. It is now using their own money, but using the discipline of the group guarantees, of the group model, to work hard, and then what they would be doing would be all theirs without any other strings. And they will definitely, the financial freedom would be guaranteed. And whenever money is made, we should realize that there is a tomorrow. There is a time when we will grow old. And I prefer referring to this as being when we are spent forces. We no longer have the energies that we had when we were younger. So we need to provide for that insurance. So in trying to be financially free, you need to have provided for your insurance of tomorrow. Because what sense does it make for you to be a burden to your children who are living in harder economic times that you may have been? So we need to think about investing for our old age. And then when it comes to borrowing, because if one has to go big in business, you may need some boost. The issue is knowing which options there are, where the cost benefit analysis is done, and is the benefit outweighing the cost that I'm incurring. But all in all, for those that are doing business, especially those small women groups, those individuals, they need always to know that they need to have a record where they keep track of what they started with and try to ensure that they do not go below that threshold, because then they would be making losses. They don't just see that same amount, then they would just be breaking even and not making any progress either. They should be trying to watch to see that what they are doing is growing. If it is not growing, then probably they could be in the wrong business. Thank you.
We have got comment from the viewers. Mr. Jenna has not been able to join us, and I think he is posing a thought there to say, do we as parents open up to our children our household finance and how much income and how it is spent at the household level, and how much is saved and how much is invested, and that investment and how that investment was chosen? It's a thought, and we have got Victor Moses, who is also bringing another dimension. The dollar is the world reserve currency, and it is no longer backed by the gold standard. So, who is determining the value of this money currency? Is it fiat currency, viable for new generations, or crypto? Anyone who want to comment on any of the two comments that
I think I'll talk about the money issue, whether it's backed by gold standard or money currency. I think the most important thing to understand is there's something called crowd. Right? Crowd equals money. There's also something called crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is a methodical system where we can develop our wealth. Making money is a pattern, it's a repetitive pattern over and over again. And if you master it correctly, you don't make silly mistakes. It's easy to evaluate, and so on and so on. That's why you find that guys like Richard Branson, if they go to Dubai, they find it very easy to start a business. They come to Africa, they find it easy to start a business. So the core issue to understand is making money, creating wealth is a pattern. You've got to understand that pattern. And through navigation, that pattern is learned through mindset engineering. Mindset engineering is complex. It's about you understanding personal branding. Who am I concept, and where am I going? And then there is also the essence of positioning. In any system, if you want to have the best view, you either sit on top of everybody or you sit in an acute position where you can have view of everybody. It is important to participate in whatever group you are in. because participation leads to knowledge exchange. So talking about reserve currency, gold-backed currency is a can of worms. Because we're going to start asking you, if I create my own dollar bill, will you accept it? You'll probably say no, or you'll probably say yes. So what makes it viable for one to have his own gold standard or standard of currency for dissemination across the world? So one has to understand that aspect of thinking. The problem is, we invest in heavy economics and trying to understand why is it like that, why is this that way, and so on and so on. The core issue is, do you understand as a person the value of currency? Do you understand yourself as a valuable entity? Do you understand the crowd around you as an equated crowdfunding currency? If you don't understand that, you will struggle, in the sense that a lot of people will utilize you in terms of debt formulation or multiplication of debts, etc. So creating wealth is no longer a science. It's no longer about going to the bank. It's about coercing the respective crowd facilities you have got access to. And when you have those crowd accesses to your disposal, then the engineering bit takes its course. Otherwise, it will not work. I can't say predominantly it will not work. It will be a slower format if you are thinking of getting wealth. And don't forget, somebody asked me, is getting rich the ultimate solution to well-being? The answer could be no. At what point do you think you're rich? What is rich? What is wealth creation? What is liquid money? So we've got to start thinking about that from different perspectives. Otherwise, the moment we start thinking about gold standard is good or paper money is good, we open a big debate, because the core debate that is behind at the moment is mindset regeneration and engineering. Our mindset remains behind.
Thank you. I don't know
I
if
think I
anyone
had
wants
a different perspective. I had a different perspective on the matter. I think it's really important to understand what money is. I think if we lose sight of that, I think the reason why Africa is where it is today is we don't understand what money is. And as a result, the other external players always take advantage, which means probably they give us papers with no value and we fight over them. So I think his question is quite valid, in that we need to know what money is, its evolution. I think it's all about history as well. People understanding the history. We need to understand the history of money, the evolution of it, and where it's going. Because right now, if we take it as negligible, I think yesterday alone, the US Congress passed the Genius Bill. It was called the Genius Bill. Now it's called the Genius Act. So what's the Genius Act? The Genius Act is regulating stable coins. I don't know whether any of you have heard of the USDC, USDT. Those are stable coins. And those ones, they are going to make America remain, the US dollar remain a de facto currency. What I can actually say is if we all agree that the American dollar is not going anywhere anytime soon, I'll tell you most currencies will go away, especially in Africa, with the innovation of stable coins. We're gonna lose a lot of currencies in Africa, and people are gonna start using US dollar. We are becoming a networked global village, and these stable coins, they're going to be a big game changer, especially in Africa where we don't have stable currencies, and they're gonna sort of replace most currencies because these stable coins are actually borderless. They are unlike the traditional dollar that we have been using. If I've got a dollar in my pocket now, I have to go to the bank or I have to do it through the app, and someone has got to, when I send it to Zimbabwe, someone has got to go to Mukuru or to World Remit to collect it. But with the stable coin, I can send it direct to their phone from here, and then they can go and change it. So in America now, with the Genius Act, they can actually go to the bank. The banks now are going to be authorized to hold those stable coins. So they're gonna be authorized to actually, you can actually, if I send stable coins in America, someone can go to the bank and swap them for US dollars. So they've become quite huge. You find so many countries like Turkey, like Iran, they've been using these stable coins to circumvent sanctions. So I wouldn't really put aside this argument. I think my argument would be Africa needs to wake up. If it means, I think now we have got opportunities to say, if we have got clever people, we can actually create a digital money on the blockchain for Africa. That's all I can say for now. But believe you me, a change is coming. Just wait maybe 2-3 years and you just keep an eye on stable coins, USDC and USDT.
I think we are missing some points here, in the sense that African politics is sophisticated when it comes to rogue regeneration. Rogue regeneration simply means antisocial, anti-financial solutions. We are good at that. We can facilitate situations that make life difficult. We've got an art of doing that. Yes, we can talk of different coins, different this, different that. There's also the element of corruption, of which we have to start thinking about in terms of how we navigate. It's not like they don't know how to navigate corruption as an institution. They do, but somebody along the way is benefiting from the effects of corruption. So to start thinking that, America is going to be the sole game changer or game player, no, I won't agree with that. Because if you look at simple examples, there's something called the Hyperloop. I don't know whether you guys have heard about it. A Hyperloop is a train that's going to go across the world. Freight train, mail train, and everything. And different countries are being invited to set stations in their respective countries. So negotiation of those stations are going to be political, because different countries are going to try and facilitate their own way of doing business to their advantage. So already I noticed Ghana is already making noise about the Hyperloop. They are saying we don't need the Hyperloop. but technically, they don't have means and ways to say they don't need the Hyperloop, and yet it's meant to circumnavigate across Africa. Africa had a project, or has a project, of creating its own Africa Rail network. And suddenly the Hyperloop has just come up. Hyperloop is going to be an international brand. Already India and the likes of Elon Musk are participating in this massive project. If you look it up, it's there. So when we start talking about financial freedom, we are compromised from the word go before we have even started. As much as we are saying that, I mean, yeah, the Americans are on top of the situation. Africans, in their ignorance, right, have got a way of making life difficult, which we do not understand. We've got our own type of politics, which the international world struggle to comply with. The things that may seem very simple, we make them difficult. And our counterparts in the Western world are forever questioning, why do these guys do that? But then, like I'm saying, that tug of war is going to continue for a very long time, probably past my lifetime. As long as we do not settle the issue pertaining to corruption, nothing is going to happen soon.
Yeah, I think Jenna is bringing, I think, some contribution there where saying if we do not teach our children or if we don't involve them in the brainstorming about what they see, they won't be financial free. They would expect money to fall from heaven like manna, and leading to them to abuse drugs, Mutoriro in the Zimbabwean context. I don't know in Sierra Leone and Uganda.
Yeah, but then if you look at it from another point, I mean, you are telling these kids that, I mean, education, 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 education. That's the mantra, isn't it? Get educated, get educated, get educated. Education is rehearsed knowledge. It's not designed to make anybody a genius or a success story. You become a success story when you embark on the exposure network pathway. And that's how it works. If you are not on the exposure pathway, how on earth are you going to learn from other significant people who have other different opinions? And for now, it's not happening. Because we have got a lot of educated people who have done we've written a lot of dissertations here and there, left, right, and center. But there's no development, is there? The type of development we need, which is pro ourselves, is not happening, is it? So at what point is that going to happen?
Well, coming back to that point, the listener wrote about how are we going to involve or teach our children. I believe it depends on individual families and how much they have in their banks or what they want to teach their children about their finances. But what to me this topic was like a big title, which I try to narrow it to how do people have a better life, teaching them to be able to be financially free. I went to the point to look at petty traders, people who can do little things to make their life better, to facilitate a better living for their own children or for their families. Because when you look at the big time, or you look at even the example given, like the guy who owns Virgin Trains, he was just a delivery boy. How he became that, God knows, and how he got all his money, that is a different issue one cannot go into. But with the topic I have read or seen, hearing all good information you are giving, I think it is what we really tell those lead people who are involved. There are lives is so much in a variety of ways. There are academics, there are professionals, there are people who do not really need to go to school to be. Education does not only mean somebody goes to school. I think education is about what you will transfer to somebody and the person is able to make a living or do another people to live from. But sometimes we purely refer to just the white man education. I've been in places where people have been educated without going to school, but to do goldsmith, they do a lot of things to make their benefit. But in this little short time we have, I think I am only narrowing myself to the kind of people who will live in an area, their amount is not big, but they can multiply it and they become independent. They cannot go back to borrow money, but they can be able to uh, reinvest what they have got their overhead, pay their loans, and get it. Because these are some of the things. Financially free, a man with money, he will pay his mortgage and he becomes free. He's no longer paying for his housing. So he is financially free on that. These are topics we will narrow it to meet. If we enlarge it more of political, academic level, we will not be able to teach the children. It will be too heavy for some of them. And these teachings does not just go straight to university students. In fact, it starts from primary school. Once these things are being taught there, then people will grasp it through to all the levels. At this point in time, you ask any university graduate or people who have money, they just want to get a house, buy their cars, they pay for it. Within, if they are 25, within 30, 55, 60, they are free. These are the kind of understanding people will give. But I do respect all what everybody has said. And I just felt if Africa, we will blame Africa in every little thing. There's corruption, there's this, that. Indeed, which country hasn't got corruption? Britain has one of the worst corrupted area. America is the worst. Look what they are doing. They are not fighting Iran for any serious thing. They are fighting for the oil. They are fighting so Iran, they can dominate. These are all money they are fighting for. Why are they bombing today Iran? And when Iraq what Iran bomb a hospital, everybody is saying who. But this is all what the world is teaching to keep people to what they want. What should one single man, Donald Trump, why should he be the only man to make a decision on so many people dying in Iran, supporting whatever the name is, Netanyahu, something like that? These are all something that is so painful. The impact we see is so great. So let's go slowly to Africa. Let's keep our elders, leaders. Apart from we all cannot speak the same language, apart from we all cannot have the same currency, so where are we going to be united to make it? That is the reason I will end up this saying, Africa, unite. Unite for the sake of your children. Because our time, we're not going to have it. Just like you said. Maybe now we can talk like this, but there will be a time people we are not talking like this. It was fax, telephone, house telephone. But now look, I can see you far away, you can see me. Brothers, that is the only way. We continue this kind of topics. We continue telling people, educate them, tell them, give examples for people to feel there is a change there should be a change. And those changes should come from our children as long as we keep talking to them. Financially, they will be all right. Nobody could be better ever, but you will still maintain your standard of living. And thank you very much. I think that will be a good night to you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And I think we have been here nearly half an or 1.5 hours, and it's a quite a challenging topic. We may prepare to give our final remarks, but I'll give those online to give their final comments or questions so that the House can respond before we give our final
There was
remarks.
the issue of whether we as parents open up to our children or our household about our household finances. I think generally we do not. But of course, there are specific families that where the parents are open, especially, of course, the openness especially comes in at a time when some of these fellows become of age, and then the purpose is to get them involved in the family's economic activities. Of course, the purpose of that is ordinarily for them to appreciate what is making them survive, because it's those means of survival that the family is taking them to school or meeting the education, medical bills or whatever, their welfare. So if they appreciate what the family members, the parents are doing, and if at all it is even a business that the family members are running, then they would value it and learn to be part of it, and probably with their knowledge, because as generations pass on, the knowledge changes, the environment changes, they can bring in new approaches to see how to sustain or grow that family business. So the issue of there are some people who say, well, all I can do is educate these children and it's up to them to survive, but you brought them into existence. So they did not choose to exist. You brought them into existence. So you have the duty to nurture them. Give it a shot. Let them ignore it, maybe basing on other knowledge that they may have. They may, but at least you will have made an effort to say, well, there is this approach to survival that has helped me as a parent to bring you up to this level, to afford your education to this level. So if you see that there is any worth in it, carry it on as a legacy. Then that's how you see some families have got businesses that have grown, that have taken centuries, just because the parents made the children appreciate the importance of those businesses they were handling and made them grow, brought in new skills. I will take a case. There's a bus company in Uganda where the parent, I think, would have been semi-literate. He did he ran a successful bus company. At some point in time, I think he was getting management challenges, but he was wise enough to take his own children to go and study transport management. At some point in time, the old man died, and like somebody or one of our brothers put it, our brothers from Sudan, from Somalia, these are Ugandans of Somali origin. They are more entrepreneurial. So he took his children to study transport management, and as of now, they have revamped that bus company. It now has a new fleet. Why? Because the parents opened up to teaching their children the businesses they were running, introducing them to it. And you see, at the end of the day, if especially it's a business, and you do not just say, this is what we do, make them either employees or shareholders of it. Then they know what it means to toil to grow that business. Definitely, they will develop a liking for it if it's something that they even see growing. But for it having brought them to that level of survival, of knowledge, and what have you, they would definitely appreciate it and see how to contribute towards it, or diversify into something else that would promote the family wealth. Thank you.
Right. Wow. I think this topic is quite interesting, and we can spend the whole night here. Let's prepare to give, in a short closing remark, any thoughts that we want our viewers and listeners to continue thinking about, continue dissecting. You might be talking to a young person who is watching. You might be speaking to a parent watching, or a politician, or someone, a leadership in the community who is watching this program. What would be their thoughts, and what would be their mindset re-engineering they might be involved in? For those on the watching us from Facebook or YouTube, you can even give us some topics, or how we can refine this topic going forward. And even for those giving the final remarks, if you want maybe pursuing this topic in a focused line, but in a particular direction, you are free to do so. So I open up to final remarks, short and sweet.
My final remarks would be that, one, it's very important for everybody to have financial freedom. That your finances should not be at the mercy of somebody else, because that person can definitely choose to terminate those finances, and that would mean your extinction. So it is important that any generation realizes that it needs resources for it to survive today and tomorrow, and guide the generation that succeeds them on how to survive for that particular time, as they are observing their environment, as they are projecting their future and realizing that they might survive in future, which means that as they have, it's all about sustainability, that have something to use today, but make sure that you have something, use it in a wise way. You should be frugal, use it in a wise way so that you have something to live on tomorrow and tomorrow next. So sustainability really should be at the center of financial freedom. That are your finances sustainable? Will you have this money today? It doesn't help for you to generate certain wealth or resources today. You have a lot, then you squander, and then tomorrow you say, I used to own that apartment. Then what happened? Yeah? I used to own that farm. You squandered the wealth that you had. So when we make some wealth, we should learn to protect and grow it. That's when it can be of benefit to future generations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Makabai. Anyone to give us their short and sweet final remarks?
Yeah, I would just say I think we need to just educate the younger generation on the way forward, on how to take care of the future, because I always say history informs the future. So we need really to teach them about the history, and then how we can leverage that history to inform where we are going. I think that's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Persons develop from people. People develop from the I concept. It's I today, and then tomorrow it's we. So the core issue is to understand the politics of crowd. What constitutes a crowd? Crowd equals money. That's why we start thinking, or we think about crowdfunding. Once we constructively use the crowds we have to create wealth, then we're in a position to develop bigger things. Numbers work wonders. That's what they say. So it's important we facilitate our input in terms of mindset regeneration. It's important we facilitate ourselves and position ourselves in crowd. I thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nathaniel, do you have anything to add?
What I would say is the financial freedom could be relating to people. I want to take it from a very low area that I have worked with the 290 women right in Sierra Leone who have been doing what they have been doing to make themselves be able to buy a few bits of things, school stuff for their children. I just want them to know that, or anywhere in Zimbabwe, South Africa, Uganda, there are women over there who did not go to school, whose husbands have died, who are single parents, who wants to make money to make their own life better for their children. You have to be determined. You have to take a risk. Use whatever you have or you have got to make your finances good. Use it wisely so that it can be productive for you. Because if you borrow $100, make sure you are able to get $150. You make sure the $100 is being still used and the $50 is kept aside. That kind of protocol you follow up, you will have financial freedom. As long as you know exactly that no food is taken from the head money, no amount of dressing buying for the head money at that point in time. But when you get your profit, at least you've got your $50, $100 now, and you continue doing the same cycle of business. Within 3, 4, 5 months, you will have financial freedom. It is not easy, but you have to do it. And with the support of your family, you will succeed. You can carry on doing it and you become large, because we've seen petty traders, people who have not gone to school, who just maybe read Muslim Arabic, they have succeeded. So everybody has the ability. If you put your mind to it and determined to do it, you can do it. It's not easy because of the economic trend all over the world. But I will advise you, think about that seriously from this narrow part of my own discussion. You petty trader, you're doing small trading to make your life better. Have a good time and continue.
Thank you very much. Wow. Yeah, I think we must all admit that this is a quite important topic, and this is just the beginning. And I think we may need to be developing it into looking at from the country level, or in a country from a regional level. But what a powerful practical discussion we have in this evening. From let's say example, credit circles in Sierra Leone. He calls them petty traders, and I think an example of 290 women that we've been discussed in this forum, and also the financial education lacking in our schools, as alluded by Shumba, and where he talks about our children need to learn if they want to go into mining. They must know what is happening in Congo. If you want to know about agriculture, they must know what is happening in Uganda. And from subsistence farming and the policy level. And tonight, under this experienced guidance of Mr. Makabai, we didn't just talk about money. We also talked about legacy. We talked about the mechanics of how the legacies, and also we debated different schools of thoughts, whether the US dollar is a de facto reserve currency, or as Mr. Makombe has alluded, that money is actually in the crowd. And to our panelists like Jenna, Nathaniel, Mr. Makombe, and Soko, and particularly in our closing remarks, we heard from Mr. Makabai, who says we need financial freedom, but each generation needs to guide the other generation to build on what they've done, giving a solid example of living example in Uganda, where a man who had a transport business teaches his children to take over. Now it has been rebranded and being successful. From Tumba, it's all about our education and how we should learn from history, because history informs how we are going to leverage on it to go into the future. And obviously, Mr. Makombe start with the I concept, the crowdfunding, and we need a mind regeneration. And his motto is crowds works wonders. And obviously, Nathaniel, he continues to go back to the petty traders, and because it has been threaded through that when they come together, actually their borrowing is quite expensive. But the people like Mr. Kombe will not go and borrow at such a rate, ranging around 36%. But they are people able to continue repaying. So Mr. Makabai thinks if they are taught how to win themselves from this and continue to build their businesses, we can have a generation that is really financially free. So from us here at Champions Network TV, until we meet again next time, I think revisiting some of these topics, stay wise, stay intentional, and keep investing in the future that matters. So from us all, good night.
Mr. Makabai. Mr. Makabai.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Can you email me? I need to ask something about Millie Mill from Uganda.
Okay.